lines that inspired us are lines 862 to 882 of the Clerk's Tale.
My Lord, ye would that in me father's place ye did me strip as of me father with, and richly me gladden of your rest, for your brought me not else out of dread, but faith and nakedness and maiden head, and here again your clothing ye restore, and eke me wedding ring for evermore, the remnant of your jewels ready be, in with your chamber dare ye softly sing, naked out of me father's house quoth she.
Ye can, and naked muti turn again, all your pleasance will ye follow in fame, but yet ye hope it be not your unthought, that ye smoketh out of your palace want. Ye could not do so dishonest a thing, that filthy room in which your children lay, should before the people in me walking, be seen all bare. Wherefore, ye you pray, let me not, like a worm, go by the way. Remember you, me own Lord so dear, ye was your wife, though ye unworthy were.
So I was down in Victoria last Monday in a craft shop getting ready for the presentation, and when I came down the aisle, and I actually got knocked down to the ground by a really hot British guy. It was really awesome. Pretty sure it's my ankle. Well, he was so worried and he was so apologetic that he begged me to allow him to make it up to me. Not him. And he wanted to take me on a trip or something, but I thought that would have been really inconvenient. So I, of course, asked him to come up to Nanaimo and help us out with the presentation. And he agreed. So he gave us a round of applause for our guest star. His name is, David Tennant.
Authors often use descriptions of clothing, from the extravagant to the simple, to emphasize important aspects of their work and to represent social status or character. Within the Clerk's Tale, Chaucer utilizes the imagery of Griselda's clothing to produce a costume rhetoric that enables the reader to gain a deeper comprehension of the story. In other words, Chaucer uses Griselda as a paper doll who is repeatedly stripped and redressed to create a subtle commentary behind the main tale. Within this presentation, we will examine 3 examples of Chaucer's costume rhetoric.
So we begin this exploration of Chaucer's costume rhetoric by first looking at Griselda's peasant smock. Normally the medieval smock would be a layer closest to the skin with several layers on garments worn on top. However, if the wearer is very poor, then the smock would often be the only garment they wore. The poorest of the poor would have worn smocks with hats. The fact that Griselda wore a smock that was practical, plain, and very tattered as her primary garment can be assumed because her father is considered the poorest man of the region. The full extent of this garment would have been held in very much disdain by the nobility that can be seen in the passage where Walter bids his noble women to strip Griselda of her old smock and redress her in fine clothing. The ladies were not reeked glad to handle her clothes wherein she was clad. Show them naked? We're not Walter here. We have some gentle lessons. So the first layer of clothing that Griselda would have been redressed in, of course, would be another smock. However, the smock would have been nothing like her previous. The predominant material for a smock at the time would have been linen, but the nobility wore smocks made of thin, light silk. These smocks were often lavishly trimmed, and where styles permitted were intended to be visible through slashes on the outer layer of clothing. Griselda's new smock then would have been made of both silk and decorated luxuriously in a style suitable for the wife of a marquis. Within Chaucer's costume imagery, it is possible to see 2 ends of the smock spectrum that metaphorically can stand for the 2 ends of the social spectrum within the 14th century society.
So Walter's reclothing of Griselda in fine clothing, all new, followed the established practice in which a husband provides a wardrobe for his bride through marital gifts that are then made part of a public display. This public display of the clothing of a new bride served 2 purposes. First, the acceptance of the new clothing by the bride symbolically stood for her integration into her husband's household and her acceptance of her new duties as his wife. As Griselda herself said in line 655, "When he first come to you, left he me will and all me liberty, and took your clothing." Secondly, since the father usually dowered his daughter, the husband The husband symbolically restores the economic balance between the two men by clothing her. However, Griselda brought no dowry to this marriage, nor has Walter allowed her to bring anything from her home, so there can be no balance within the marriage. In fact, by publicly stripping and then reclothing her, Walter has only succeeded in establishing his domination over Griselda and emphasizing the difference in their social status. Chaucer uses Walter's subversion of the customs of the traditional clothing of the bride to highlight a relationship that is based upon Walter's subjection of Griselda rather than upon a mutual assumption of duties based upon a standard social contract.
Since marriage at this time was viewed more as an economic affair, in the case of divorce and separation, though very rare at this time, both the marriage gifts and the dowry were normally returned. So Walter, acting according to custom when he requested that Griselda return her clothing, take her dowry, and return to her father's house. However, since Walter had publicly stripped her of all her possessions, he really is being an ass when he tells Griselda that he grants of his grace for her to take back the dowry that she brought. Since all Griselda brought was her virginity, and there ain't any way she's getting that back. Thank you very much. It is at this point that Griselda puts forth her one and only act of resistance to Walter, in that she successfully negotiates for the smock she's wearing in exchange for her maidenhead dowry. So it clearly shows that clothing can not only be used as an instrument of domination, such as when Walter first had Griselda stripped, but also as a symbol of resistance. Walter's humiliation of Griselda is complete when he forces her to return to organize his wedding, his second wedding, and wait upon his noble guests while wearing the crude and torn remnants of her clothing.
However, Griselda's virtue wins out in the end, and for her final redressing, Griselda is dressed in a gown of cloth of gold that shone brightly, and a crown set with many rich stones. Cloth of gold, could we get the cloth of gold out here, please? Was made using threads of silk, wrapped in fine filaments of gold, and was commonly known as samite. Samite was reserved for royalty and the very highest nobles and church officials. Since samite was an outward symbol of the social order, its use was controlled and eventually even forbidden for those that are of a lower social order, because unworthy individuals who dressed in it could be seen as a challenge to the social order and a threat to social stability. Chaucer has dressed Griselda in such a way that she now poses both a challenge and a threat, for she has gone from being the discarded daughter of the poorest man in the region to the symbolic equal of the very highest in the land. However, while Griselda's clothing presents a visual display of power and glory, the use of reflected and refracted light from the cloth and the crown also accentuates the integrity, purity, and virtue of Griselda's character. In essence, she has been outwardly dressed in her inner virtues. Griselda can now symbolically be compared to the Virgin Mary.
It's the crown. It's her halo.
And no one can overlook or argue with the inner gentilessa she possesses, and which is fully deserving of her new social standing. In essence, Chaucer has used his costume rhetoric, developed around his paper doll Griselda, to deliver a message to subtly critique the social order and highlight that gentilessa isn't dependent upon a person's clothing or outward estate, but on something they possess inside, and which is exhibited no matter what challenges they may face.
So we would like to thank the Lieutenant for coming by and giving us a hand with our presentation. We figured Time Lord would probably be the best one to try on Griselda's clothing, if only because he's probably around her in the 14th century, and possibly even contributed to the creation of the gold dress.
We have time for questions, if anyone has a question.
Okay, I like how his first dress was hardest blue. I like how his first dress was hardest blue.
Oh, hardest blue. Which line was it that you that has the gold smock? That was really interesting. That the reading of I like that you say that she's now outwardly dressed by her inner virtues. That I think is really
Yeah,
important, so I
all
just want people to,
I have to find it,
okay,
but I can't while you.
or if anyone else